Starbites is what you get when you mix Borderlands with Octopath Traveler and a little sprinkle of Trails. In fact, the Borderlands comparison applies to multiple things: the build-based nature of Starbites' customization system, the premise, and aesthetics. Let's dial into each of these. JRPG equipment systems typically revolve around a weapon, a piece of armor, and an accessory. And in these systems, predictably, a lot of people will often look for weapons that deal the most damage, armor that has the highest defense, and some accessory that highlights the strength of said character. Starbites will still cater to those hoping for that simplified approach, but it also allows for more nuanced build creation by adjusting other stats in tandem with these typical stats. This, combined with a tech tree whose points can be reallocated outside of combat, can lead to some incredibly devastating builds, especially later on. And while you won't get a randomized set of Mad Lib-style loot a la Borderlands, just having the ability to customize each character to this greater degree is something that I don't often see these days. My Gwendol, for example, started off dealing massive amounts of damage with her rifle early on, continually dominating in damage thanks to the build I set up for her, until the rest of the party caught up later on. Speaking of, combat in Starbites is a turn-based blend of Octopath Traveler's shield and weakness system, while incorporating an interesting take on Trails' S-craft mechanics. Like Octopath Traveler, every enemy has a shield that you must deplete by hitting the enemy with their weakness. And whenever you find said weakness, it'll be listed along with their remaining shields, just like in Octopath Traveler. Once you break their shields, they'll lose their turns, and you're free to inflict massive amounts of damage upon them. Where things get interesting is with the Driver's High system, which is Starbites' take on S-crafts. Exploiting enemy weaknesses, breaking enemy shields, and just playing aggressively builds up a character's Driver's High gauge. And when it's on fire, you can unleash a character's Driver's High at any point, and get the next turn immediately. Where it differs from S-crafts, however, is what happens once Driver's High is activated. Driver's High greatly enhances your regular attack damage and skill potency and duration, allowing you to choose which action suits you best depending on the situation. During battles with some high damage dealing enemies, for instance, I often use Lukita's Driver's High enhanced Reconstruct skill, which gets boosted to heal 50% of a character's life. This has saved me plenty of times. And when you combine this with some of Starbites' tech tree unlockables that have you filling up your Driver's High gauge by using certain skills, you can see how powerful it can truly be. But I want to emphasize here that unlike the S-Craft's utilization in Trails, using the Driver's High is central to Starbites' combat, and you'll often find yourself using it to break enemies quickly, thus preventing further damage from them. Going back to the Borderlands comparisons, Starbites' premise also feels as crazy as any of the aforementioned series' plots. In Starbites, you follow the story of a young mech warrior named Lukita. Everyone on the planet Bitter seems to be in massive debt somehow, and the only way Lukita sees out of it is to obtain a ticket off the planet and get the heck out of there. Thankfully, she got one, only to lose it within minutes of starting the game. Your quest revolves around retrieving this ticket, with the story escalating to such a degree that you'll soon unravel a dastardly plot that, predictably, threatens practically everyone you know and love. Starbites has what I call a very plot-driven story. Though the first several hours of the game constantly pushes you forward to find out the fate of Lukita's missing ticket, admittedly, it's not the most interesting part of the story. While the characters themselves have very strong personalities, such as Gwendol's penchant for booze and Badger's strong yet wise man-esque quips, there's not a lot of character development here. And I'm not talking about social links or anything of that nature. The way the story is told can be described as you being given an objective, fulfilling the objective, then rinse and repeat. And while one might argue that every game has something like this repetition is oftentimes undercut by a slow moment here and there to offer variety. Yet Starbites just doesn't like sitting still, and you're often whisked to yet another objective soon after returning to Delight City. As someone who really looks forward to these slower character-defining moments, not getting any meaningful ones in Starbites, especially with how interesting its characters are, is a bit disappointing. Unfortunately, this repetition can also be found in its level design aesthetic. This might sound like a strange critique, given that most RPG dungeon designs are meant to be more purposeful rather than aesthetically pleasing. But given that you're often departing from the same locations, you'll be seeing the same locations over and over and over and over again. And sometimes you'll see similar looking places, but with a different tint just to say, hey, this is a different area. Now, I want to be clear here by saying that changing the tint of an area with a similar look shouldn't itself be criticized. After all, many other games cut and paste locations to save on development time. But Starbites' explorable environments outside of town can be described as intertwining mazes with loot and treasure chests to discover, amongst the occasional save/rest point and objective markers. Give me a landmark or something to look for so I know where I'm going. Junk piles here and there aren't exactly the best way to keep track of where I am. And while you can argue that Borderlands Desert is just as barren and repetitive as Starbites, at least the former had landmarks that allowed you to orient yourself and get curious about exploring. This is a crying shame because the devs clearly have made some interesting choices when it comes to its overall aesthetic, reflected in both its character designs and the design of the Light City. I read some reviews who have negatively called out Starbites' designs as early PS2, but honestly, I love it. It's not exactly like Borderlands, but like that series, its more colorful palette provides a sharp contrast to the typical dry and dreary state of its sand-filled world. And the so-called early PS2 aesthetics? It reminds me of a much more colorful The Bouncer, with simpler textures dominated by smooth color gradients that make the characters pop from the environment. Perhaps the intention here is to render anything outside the Light City as drab, while highlighting it as a vibrant settlement where all life and commerce actually happens. The Light feels compact, yet full of things to discover and check out, doing a fantastic job of telling the story of how society has survived on Bitter. I just wish this kind of consideration was extended to the design of its exploration areas. I also love that Starbites has these small cutscene moments that set the tone for dialogue scenes. They're not overly long, overly produced cutscenes, but just enough to make that moment feel slightly elevated. The main story itself is voice acted in both English and Japanese, but I gotta be honest here. I often play with English voice acting, but I felt that the Japanese version of Lokita just nails her personality perfectly. She's spunky, energetic, and just bursting with life. The soundtrack itself is pretty good, but can get a little repetitive with repeat listens. Unfortunately, I did encounter a weird sound bug that played voices that didn't match the dialogue displayed on screen. But I've been told that a day one patch is being prepared for launch, so I'm hoping this will be fixed. Overall, I do feel that Starbites has a lot going for it. It's got a great classic, not retro, aesthetic that brings me back to the early golden days of the PS2, as well as a combat and customization system that is deeply satisfying and sufficiently challenging. I think where the hangups are going to be are whether or not you like the characters so much, and I think you're going to love them, that you're going to wish that Starbites would have allowed you to get to know them more, and whether or not you can endure the repetitive nature of its explorable terrain. Nonetheless, I think for a company that just made their first RPG, this is a splendid effort made by a team of people who have clearly the passion and love for Japanese-style RPGs as we do. And if you got 20 hours to spare, honestly, I think Starbites is well worth your time. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.